Welcome to your weekday cup of the word. Today we're in Luke 16. Now in Luke 16, you're going to see two major sections. The first section is going to deal with the parable of the unjust steward, which is a difficult parable, and we'll take a second to talk about that. And then the second section is going to deal with the true story of the rich man and Lazarus, and give us a window into what happens when both the righteous and the wicked die. Now, the parable of the unjust steward is kind of an odd parable because it deals with a guy who's not a good guy. There's a servant, and he's about to be fired because he's been not behaving well. And right before he gets fired, he goes to all of his master's clients and cuts them a deal, basically gives them a fire sale and says, oh, you owe this amount, but only pay this amount and we'll call it even. And the point of it is that as the man was about to lose his livelihood, he knew that he needed to wheel and deal and do whatever it took to take care of himself physically. And he is so shrewd about it, so cunning, that even as the master is firing him, he kind of tips his hat to him and goes, well, at least you were smart about it, so you had somewhere to stay when I fired you. Now, the point of this parable is simply this. Not to be unjust or not to cheat people, but that in a world where people are very smart when it comes to saving their own physical hide, when it comes to taking care of our souls, we put very little thought and effort into it. And so Jesus is saying, you know, you ought to be like this man in one respect, in only one respect, which is the way he cares for his body. You ought to start taking care of your soul. Have you ever thought about putting a little bit of effort into the process of making sure that your soul was right so that when you die and you're in a pinch standing before the judgment seat of God, you've done the things that you needed to make sure that you're squared away with the Creator of heaven and earth. That's the parable of the unjust steward. Now, the second section is the story of the rich man and Lazarus. This is not a parable. In fact, Jesus doesn't give any indication that this is just some mythological story. There are real people in it. He names people. Lazarus has a name. He uses a real person, Abraham, in the story. And this is just simply a window into what happens when we die. And the point of this is to say, well, one, when you die, you want to be where Lazarus was, not where the rich man was. And then two, at the end, he points out that we have everything that we need in order to obey God. He told the rich man, he says, of his brothers, he says, they have the law of Moses. If they won't listen to that, they won't listen to a man if he comes from the dead. And so we really need to take to heart that when you die, you don't have the opportunity to go back and fix things. When you're dead, you're really dead. It's done. And then on top of it, that here, the gospel is such a powerful thing that it has the power to save us. It is just as powerful as if somebody came from the dead to speak to us. It has just as much power to change our lives. So we ought to pay attention to it now while we have breath in our body. Once again, all of this is wrapped within Jesus journeying towards Jerusalem to be crucified. He's really hammering home this idea of get ready for eternity, because I'm about to open the door to eternity through my blood. That's your Daily Cup, and we'll see you